Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new Hackers And Haecksen podcast. You're about to join Erika, Jax, and Jon for an inclusive cybersecurity conversation designed to educate and break the stereotypes of cybersecurity professionals while providing life hacks on how to handle burnout, networking, and goal setting. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Hello and happy day to all our Hackers and Haecksen listeners who have been following us since the first part of 2021. Today is episode 26, and it has been a journey thus far. We have been able to connect with and share the stories of so many leaders in the cybersecurity world. Today, we offer you yet another amazing story with someone who brings his full self to the table 100% of the time. Stefan Semmelroth is a cybersecurity thought leader, streamer on all of the platforms, Avid runner, West Point grad, Army Ranger, award-winning cyber partner, and a friend, mentor, advocate for many of us in the cybersecurity community. Stefan, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited. You always pump me up, so that's a street that goes both ways. And let's get going. Let's change the world. Game on.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you. It took us about, like a month and a half to even get you on the show. You are such an advocate for uplifting so many people in the cybersecurity community with your posts and the different things that you do on social media. But before we really dive into the meats of this discussion, I would love for you to share with the listeners a little bit more about who you are and how you got to where you're at today.
Ooh, well, those are two different questions. So I'll thread the needle between the two of them. So I think that the easier one to answer is how I got to where I'm at today. So I started trying to get into tech before I could drive. Literally before I could drive. So I was my hometown of Northern Illinois. There were a few different tech companies that were there. And this is going back. We'll just say more than 20 years. And I would reach out to CEOs at the companies and basically ask to come be an intern. Hey, come let me intern for you. I'll work for free, or maybe I think minimum wage is like $4.25 an hour back then. And these CEOs were taking my calls and they were letting me come in and actually interview. It was probably because I was, like 4 feet tall at the time. And there's just, an interesting thing for them. And what they told me was, come back when you know how to drive. That's too long. I don't want to wait that long. So eventually I got picked up in my first tech role, just as an IT technician, running cables, formatting stuff, doing processor upgrades, doing a little bit of the domain work, learning how to subnet, basic IT stuff back in the day. And that was when I responded to my first cyber incident. So the NIMDA worm hit the network, went around, we burned down subnet by subnet by subnet by subnet, and stood them back up and stood them back up and stood them back up. And what do you think it did? It came right back behind us. So that was 20 years ago now, more than 20 years. And the funny thing is, the questions that I asked then are still very much like 80% the same questions that I ask now when clients have breaches, when they have incidents. So that, what we do really hasn't changed, just the context of which we changed, context in which we do it changed. But that took me, when that internship kind of ended, I went over to another internship, which was effectively a sales engineering role, which really opened up my perspective to what you do, how you do it, how you build a community in the space, what is the technology underpinning all of that, what does the handoff between sales and engineering look like? A lot of questions that, again, I didn't fully appreciate at the time, but there's still still fundamental to what we do today, and it ties into a lot of the coaching and mentoring that I do now. And then I like hard problems, so that's what took me to West Point. So applied to West Point, got in, and then when you're there, you have to choose your major, and it's an engineering school, and I'd already done IT, and I said, let's go electrical engineering, because that's, in my mind, one of the most difficult things you can do. Boom, electrical engineering. Graduated, still like hard problems, so I picked the infantry, knowing that I was like 80% chance of going to combat. Hey, pick me, I'll go. That took me to Ranger School, and when I got, this is funny. When I got to Ranger School, my unit was already in Afghanistan. I had not met my unit yet. So I literally had to go through without recycling, without repeating a phase or getting dropped, straight through by the skin of my teeth, made it out the backside, graduated, went cross country, got to my unit, and I literally got there in time for the last flight to Afghanistan. So those experiences certainly have shaped my worldview, and I'm starting to now talk about those experiences with other veterans in the space to help them work through any issues or trauma they might have. So that's something that's always a challenge, but it's also exciting to be able to help other people. And then after being back for about a year and a half back here stateside, I had this agreement with my platoon sergeant, and I told him, because you have to be candid. We are a team. I told him, I am in serious pain. I don't know what it is. I know exactly when it started, but I don't know what it is. I've been to chiropractic for a year and physical therapy for a year. You can know I'm in pain, but we're going to keep this between us. And I will keep doing the things that I'm doing. I will still be a leader. I'll still be out front. I will still, motivate, drive, and get to where we need to go as an organization. But when the guys can see that I'm in pain, that's when I know I need to go punch somebody in the face and really figure out what's going on. One day I came back in from our morning workout, and my squad leaders were all sitting there, my platoon sergeant, and they looked at me and they said, "Hey, sir, it's time." That was on a Tuesday morning. By Friday afternoon, I had already found out that I had broken my back in Afghanistan, and that I was already switched from my platoon up to staff. So went up to staff. Funny story here, because everything bad that happens is actually a good story in disguise. So I finally, I go in and I get in a big argument with our physician's assistant. He finally says, okay, maybe there's a thing here. I get the right x-rays, and as I'm waiting for the x-ray results to come out, I'm standing there with the x-ray tech. X-ray techs are not supposed to say anything. They're just supposed to give you good image, bad image, thumbs up. Do we need to take this again or not? Well, we're sitting there talking, and the x-rays pop up on the screen, and his response was, and I'm not going to say the actual words that he said, but it was, "Dang, sir, you're screwed." So that was when I knew I had a long road ahead of me. And after that, did one more small little mission training exercise with the battalion. Went up to corps level staff, and that was where I had reconstructive back surgery. So I had a spinal fusion, and what the surgeon found out when he was working on me was that I only there's 4 grades to this particular fracture, and I was only a grade 1. But when he was working on me, he found that I literally had bone spurs growing into my nerves, which is as painful as it sounds. So he cleaned out the bone spurs, and I woke up, was laying in bed afterwards, recovering, and my surgeon is hilarious. He is an absolute jokester. He's hilarious. He made this process easy because of the humor that he brought to the table. So when he comes through, he was standing at the foot of my bed, and I couldn't see him because my feet are up in front of me, and the blankets are on top of the feet. And he goes, "Okay, can you feel this?" I said, "Oh, Doc, you're kidding me. Come on. Come on." He goes, "No, really, can you feel this?" And I go, Are you still joking?" And he goes, "Okay, you're paralyzed. It'll probably come back." Oh, huh. Well, we'll figure this out. Maybe it's pride or just pure confidence. I don't know, but I said, "We'll just figure this out." Thankfully, 48 hours later, I could feel my legs again, learned to walk again, got up, moving around. Uh, and honestly, for anybody that might have to go through something like this, the worst part about your first week is not being able to poop. That is the worst part. Oh, so overcame that obstacle as well. Tell me about a time you overcame adversity. Well, I couldn't poop for a week one time. uh,
And oh my gosh, this is making okay. First off, I'm hurting, but I'm also resonating with this far too well. You didn't know this before you hopped on the call, but I have had quite the year, and I'm actually relearning how to walk right now.
no
So
way.
yeah, so I'm recovering from a leg realignment surgery, a very uncommon procedure. It was a growth deformity that took 14 years of surgeries to identify. I'm on month 5 of no walking, but I'm learning how to walk again. And so I totally understand, the ups and downs of that process. And as you were telling that story, I mean, I was not only feeling your pain to an uncomfortable degree, but also I was just imagining the flood of emotions that you must have felt as, what you knew to be your life, was being rocked, right? And that adversity that kind of led you to making a pivot, like an important pivot in your life that you knew needed to happen. But sometimes these opportunities, as you mentioned, like stories come out of it, but also a lot of growth and healing that comes out of these things that help you pivot into the next role, the next, path that you're taking. So I think this is a really, really cool time to pivot into kind of what led you to being this influencer that you are today, right? So out of this adversity came probably a lot of decisions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of what am I going to do now, right? After your last mission.
Yeah.
So I want to dive into, you have a lot of followers. I mean, you have been blowing up. Your content is popping. What kind of led you to kind of seek this out, or was it an accident? I mean, I want to just know more about what led you to becoming a cyber influencer.
Yeah. So that the pivot there for me was, was coming out of that surgery and realizing that I had really tied up a substantial portion of my own identity with being an infantryman, with carrying heavy things very far in order to protect and defend the United States. And when I could no longer carry heavy things or move even a short distance, or I was literally afraid at that point, after surgery, of firing my own personal weapon because the kick from the weapon hurt. So wrapping into that identity, I started looking at exploring what would be fun again, and going back to those experiences from 20 years ago of cyber incidents, and I put in my packet to the Cyber Corps. And when I did that, I was literally still high as hell on opiates after back surgery. Like that's how short after, because the window was about to close.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, like, pupils the size of dinner plates, putting in this packet, and I end up getting picked up. So that was an interesting process, and the force there when I went down. At that point, I was finishing my master's of engineering because I didn't know if the Army was going to keep me in or not. And by the last semester of my master's of engineering, I realized I don't want to be an engineer. I am good at it. Don't get me wrong, but it is not what I'm best at. And so then I took 30 days off and started my MBA while I'm working full time. Now working in the cyber industry and going from continent to continent to solve big problems, or at least do my part to solve those problems. And as I'm going through the MBA, I'm taking stock of what I'm going to do, because I still don't know if the Army is going to retain me. Well, what is my unfair advantage in this space? And it is my relationships. Okay, if that's my unfair advantage, is relationships, and the market has a need for people that can do what I do, but I don't want to do the work, then how do I turn that into a business model? And so that's where the idea of recruiting came in. And I reached out to some of the bigger recruiting firms, and they didn't know what to do with cyber officers. And so that kind of cemented the idea. And so I launched the cyber recruiting company, and I started off, as a shop of one, and I had a couple interns, and I was just bringing on a full-time employee. And a big part of that required me to go out. Like, I knew delivery. Delivery was easy, right? All you had to do is have strategy, plan, action, execute. Game on. What I didn't know at that point was sales and marketing. So I had to go out and learn sales and marketing. So my first 17 clients that I had for the company were all either directly tied to my own personal network or one step adjacent to it through a warm introduction. It wasn't until client number 18 that I figured out how to do marketing. And then I figured, okay, if I finally figured that out, what's the next step? So between what the market needed for cyber professionals and security professionals, and work roles adjacent to that, and then knowing the capability and potential of the population that I'm serving, which is primarily veterans in cyber, IT, military intelligence, or tech, how do I close that gap? If I'm going to really do this, how do I close that gap? And a big part of that was education. So building things like cheat sheets on how to learn C language, building cheat sheets on how to learn Go, and basically building the population that the market needs based off of potential, and closing that gap and closing that gap and closing that gap. And then as you build things like that and put out work into the space, it kind of grows as a marketing function, and you start to get churn. And then part of it was intentional, but probably 60% of it was because I'm out making the industry, actively trying to make the industry better and get more people into cyber. And then eventually I just said, this needs to be its own formal line of effort, because I was very frustrated with many voices in the community, not y'all's, but I was very frustrated with many of the voices in the community that said, if you want to get into cyber, you must go A+, and then Net+, and then Sec+, and you have to go down the technical route, because that was the route that I got there. And no, that's just so wrong. There's so many non-technical routes, and we need so many more people into it. So how do we take this, something that's very complex and broad, incredibly broad, and how do we make it down to bite-sized, consumable, appetizing nodes that non-technical people can understand, that they do not have to be rocket scientists to sell rockets?
So true. Yeah. We are very good in the cybersecurity community about making it seem that to get into an entry-level position, you have to be extremely technical and have that technical background. That was when I joined from the military side and going into the civilian side. I was that route of like A+, because that's what the military does, A+.
That's what they told us to do.
Yep, they're all very certification heavy. And when I got out and then meeting Erika and other people in the sector, I realized there's just a whole myriad of different avenues that you can go down. And I'm a huge cybersecurity like policy and law. I love that kind of stuff. I'm just a big nerd in it. And I've got my technical side, but that wasn't the avenue. And I was forcing myself into that position. And I realized that I'm good, like you, I'm good at it, but I'm not great at it. So where can I pivot into and I can become great? And that's what I love about your content and what you put out is you really put out a lot of information to educate the general community and to teach them that there are different ways of approaching cybersecurity and getting into the industry. And you see that through your posts. That's why I really I don't know how we connected. I think it was through mutual connections like Josh and Gerald.
Mhm.
And I really started paying attention to the content you started putting out. And what I really liked is you not only put content out, but you uplift others around you as you do it. Typically, when you share something on LinkedIn, you almost always tag somebody in it, and you're bringing in the community as you're sharing this content. And what I have seen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you've created kind of your own tribe in your own community on your own through your own thought leadership. And so what I'm curious is this something that was just natural for you coming out of the military and being a natural leader and then moving into this space and starting to push yourself into the cyber influencer space? Was this something you just naturally started doing, or were you conscious about it? Were you like, I'm going to make this post, I'm going to tag these people? I'm curious on that.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for consuming the content I put out, and I'm glad that I'm glad when it hits the bar that I've set for myself and hits the target audience. So thank you for that feedback, because that's one of the number one goals is to make content that helps mature the industry and helps get more people into it. A couple of the things there is, when I look at building content, or producing content, I've effectively been on different stages or in front of people my whole life. And being from the Midwest, we try to give credit where credit's due. So that's something that's been ingrained in me for a long time. So when somebody does something amazing, let's just highlight it. Let's just say that, like, here's an example. I mentioned the cheat sheet and the Golang cheat sheet that I built. That was me and Sean Iyer. It was my idea. I wanted it. I started it off. Sean was the one that did the vast majority of the work on there. So if you look at it, it should be still by Sean Iyer and Stefan Semmelroth, not Stefan Semmelroth. And specifically with Sean's name first. So when we do that, what I want people to know when they walk away from my content is that this is an industry and a market segment and a population and a great community, that it's not just a couple people that are awesome. It's a lot of people that are awesome and a lot of people that are putting significant time into it and a lot of people that are investing so heavily to make the community a better place. And that's why we see so many nonprofits, so many non-for-profits as well. A lot of people just giving back to make sure that we move forward as an industry and share their thoughts. And one of my big goals is to get more people in the industry. And we don't do that by highlighting ourselves. We do that by highlighting other people and their triumph. And it's just fun. Like, I also love, so gratitude is one of the strongest emotions. Let's show gratitude. It just feels better.
Yeah, totally. Stefan, and first off, I got to say, your energy is awesome. It's so powerful. What you bring to the table is it's contagious. Jax and I are super hyped up over here, obviously. This is a great pivot to my next question, because I know that this is something that really, I can tell you're really comfortable, really passionate about it. I want to see, for some people out there that are struggling with the fear of, publishing content, or have the fear of, what if I put myself out there and, I don't get as many likes as I would have liked to, or the visibility, or the, those stepping stones, right? Those growing pains. They're scared of other opinions and a lot of other factors, right? So what advice do you have for those people on how to kind of break out of that shell and learn from some of that infectious energy that you have and push that out?
Okay, there's so much there. The easiest thing that I'll say is when you put out content, put it out on LinkedIn. LinkedIn wants to build you up. There are other social media channels that the community doesn't always do that. So there are, there's channels here where I still will put content on because engaging those communities are good, and we don't want to be an echo chamber, and I need people to challenge my opinions and my assumptions. But I predominantly go to social media channels where the community is strong, the community wants to see you succeed, and they don't just lambast you with their own negativity, because that's not healthy. And if some of the other streams, I don't want to call them out on this channel. When I look at some of those, they just tear me down. I don't want to be torn down. I want to be lifted up. That's what I want. So the other side of the house is, why don't I walk you quickly through my journey on video, because I think it's relevant now more than ever.
Let's do it.
So the first piece was, I, as a former engineer, as a recovering engineer, I spent a lot of time trying to make effectively what turned out to be educational videos. And it was really hard for me. Like, it wasn't jiving for me. It wasn't really hitting me as a person to make educational videos, like how-to videos. Fine. Still have some. They're still useful. But there was missing a piece there. I'll come back to that. The second thing was, I was trying to do what I thought was the right type of media, which was 8 to 12-minute videos, very well produced, with good B-roll, with right sound quality. And I was getting frustrated by the equipment that I had. I was getting frustrated by the workflow. So if anybody wants to make a startup around those things, go for it. Please, by all means. I'll be a strategic investor. Let's go. Then I kept running into these roadblocks that by the time I'd get this amazing 10-minute video out, and I'd watch it when I'm done, and it wouldn't feel great to me. I'd be too critical of it, and I'd throw my hands up, and I'd just be frustrated. And so that frustration finally came to a point one day when I was out running again, finally, in which, Erika, you and I can talk about that. I will gladly share the number of times that I failed walk to run programs.
Yes, please.
I will open up, share all of it for you.
Can't wait.
So I'm out on a jog, and jogs and runs used to be my, and they still often are, my like contemplation, my introspection, figuring out what's right in the world. What are the things that are wrong that I want to change about the world? And any of my business partners know that if they get a call from me while I'm on a run, it's because I just had an epiphany or two. So I'm out on this run, and I'm just pissed off that I'm not making content that I want to make. And it's not resonating with me. And if it doesn't resonate with me, it's not going to resonate with anyone. So I said, and then there's another piece of Fran ran Rubica for a while. I'm not sure what she's doing right now. Fran, if you're listening to this, you're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Let me know what you're doing, how I can help. But Fran was putting out 5 times more videos than I was. And it was just her in front of a wall talking about things that I liked. And so I'm like, I'm out here, I'm on a run. I've got my phone with me. And I looked down and I said, if Fran can do it and just put out anything, then I can do it. So I literally just turned on the camera and recorded myself talking. I don't even know what I talked about. Couldn't even tell you. But it was something that I was passionate about. And I got home and I hit upload. Boom. And I don't know if it was the content or the passion or what, but it started to get engagement. And very quickly, I realized that it's not an either or thing. I don't have to work out or make content. I can do both literally at the same time. It's more convenient for my schedule. And when you start combining it, it very quickly turned into a brand. It turned into a brand thing. And the feedback that I was getting from the community was, please keep doing this. You're highlighting things that are important. And so I try to do a good mix of short form and long form, because people that want to get in the industry, they only want 15 seconds of content. What is the nugget they need? So let's feed them. Now we've got a seed planted. Let's water it. And then as we start to build that garden, we have to have long form content as well, like you all are doing. So that was where that idea kind of came together. And then certainly not culmination, but a big milestone of that was this past weekend, Jax, when you showed up. and I did a full half marathon live streamed from my phone, cyber AMA, literally ask me anything. And it was one of the most fun events that I have done for me individually. And we got to answer a lot of questions that people have in the community, and we had a number of amazing guests on as well that brought a lot of great insight, and trying to figure out how we can up the ante next time.
Yeah, that AMA was really impressive, and you were running at a very respectful rate pace while answering all of the questions. Wow, I was extremely impressed. And then knowing your background and where you've come from, being paralyzed to now running and doing these calls, I want to know though, the first time you ever did one of your, because you're known for your running and your mentor calls. How did that go the first time you did one of your mentor calls as you were running? Was it pretty smooth and fluid? Like just like popped into mind, hey, I'm just going to do a mentor call now?
Yeah, so it actually was very fluid, because I had I'm unabashedly me, first off. So I had been doing some business calls, and like when I was recruiting, when I still owned the recruiting company before I sold it, I actually spent I would go out on runs sometimes, on long runs, and I'd bring like an index card with me of all the candidates I wanted to call while I was out. And I got I got a Bluetooth headset with the fuzzy thing for the wind on it. I forget what the actual name is, but the audio-visual industry calls them dead cats. I don't know why. Probably because they look like a dead cat. But yeah, so I'd been doing that for a while, and then I looked at it one day and I just go, I'm mentoring. I don't have to be perfect on this. I don't have to have a perfectly sculpted background with an f1.4 lens. Let's just go out, and if I don't, like, I have to run today. I have to. So I said, hey, I'm gonna run. We either talk or we don't. And I've literally never had a person say, no, I don't want to talk right now. Ever. And that's in probably around 300 calls. Yeah.
Wow. That is a lot. Stefan, I feel like we could continue to share stories and talk for the next 2 hours. But unfortunately, we got to wrap it up here. So Stefan, we've really enjoyed all of the insights, all of the stories that you've shared. Like I said earlier, your energy and then your stories, I mean, they're just so powerful. And I'm really excited for our listeners to get a chance to learn more about you. And if they are interested in contacting you or following more of your journey, being a fan of your content, right? How can they get a hold of you? What's the best way? LinkedIn, email, Twitter, Twitch, whatever.
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn. And I like to show my sales team that my score tends to be higher than theirs on LinkedIn. It's not a competition. It's definitely a competition. I'm most active on there, and it is very rare that I remove a connection. So absolutely connect with me. Even if we can't talk one-on-one, on audio, visual, or camera or whatever, I still try to answer the occasional questions. And for anybody that's listening, if you have a commonly asked question, I will send you commonly answered questions in video form, whatever form that or articles that I may have already answered. So that way you can just go after it, and there's usually links in there. Because I think giving advice is easy, giving homework is hard, and I like to give homework, so it's usually sculpted for the person itself. YouTube as well. I try to post a bunch of videos a week on YouTube. Definitely check me out there. Twitter as well, and then we are live streaming to Discord and Instagram. So I hit most of them, but LinkedIn is where I'm very, very, very active.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that I gather all those handles from you offline, and for our listeners, those will be live on whatever streaming platform of choice you're listening to this story on.
Thank you.
All
and
right.
As we close out, one thing I want to leave the audience is again, you do not have to have a PhD in cybersecurity to join the community. You can join the community simply by showing up. look for local conferences, look for local networking events, look for, the various community activism groups that are out there, and literally just show up, whether it's in person or virtual. Just show up and start asking questions. And what I like to tell people, especially introverts, because it's about 95% of the people that I mentor are introverts by the numbers. All you have to do is pick 1 or 2 events a week. Show up, and every one of those events, try to get 1 to 2 in person, if possible, or remote coffee talks, 30 minutes. By the end of a year, you will have built a local community where you're at least 100 people in the space that you want. And if you do that, you will get in the community faster than any other route, because it is about people.
I love that. That is wonderful advice. Thank you, Stefan. All right, that is it. We're closing out. Thank you again for being our guest on Hackerz And Haecksen. See you on LinkedIn.
Happy day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Hackerz And Haecksen podcast with Erika, Jax, and Jon. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor 1 or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.